I'm Thompson, and
I'm Julia.
we're going to try to do way too much, and I know it's not going to go perfectly.
That's good.
We're doing some things we haven't done before, and we're also, Jarrett and with the help of Alex in the office, have kind of set up a separate webcam and a lapel mic so we can like roast and actually talk over it and be heard. And I know something's going to go wrong, but I'm really hoping this is a super useful for anyone that has a popper or popcorn popper. And so just to give you a rundown of what we're going to do, we're going to actually be talking about watt meters and how great they are, and a voltage controller to manipulate your voltage a little, and how this is great for just literally any roaster. I mean, you plug it in a wall, you plug the roaster into it, and you know what line voltage you're seeing and what your wattage consumption by your machine is as you change heat settings and stuff. Super useful, and like what, $10 or $12,
Yeah.
and $20. And this is less useful but interesting. And what I'm going to do is just actually run down the simplest machine you could possibly use this with is a popcorn popper, like the Popo. So we're going to look at that because it has no fancy electronics that are going to get scrambled and confused by the fact that you're dropping the voltage. You know, obviously if your roaster has a chip in it of any kind, it can't handle like a wide voltage adjustment. But a popper can. And then we're going to look at how air popper. And then we're going to look at how you could use it with a popper, to just get some fine-tune adjustment. One of the things many people know with the popper that's a kind of weakness is it has this stepped heat and wattage adjustment. It's not fluid, so you can't just adjust it for any heat level. It's steps, and I made a very sophisticated chart to show you that.
There will be a test.
Yeah, we're audiovisual aids is my strength. And this gives you a little bit of play without having to take anything apart, do anything, these are all just plug it in. It's wonky, but it's
It's fun.
DIY. And Julia we're going to also, let me just pivot. Not to that. Oh, to this, yeah. We are going to, this is my Frankenstein. You know how, like in science class, you had the heart model?
Yes.
Yeah, or the lungs.
Broken down diagram.
I feel like
Diorama.
this reminds me of it. So this is a already taken apart. Totally.
Anatomical.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're going to actually take a brand new popper and swap the motor for no exact reason, just to show motor swap and how you do it. And we're also going to adjust the position of the thermal heat sensor, which gives you a little more roasting latitude for going darker.
I see.
So, and if we get to all of that, and actually, answer any questions or things you want to throw out, but about at us, I think Dan is, and maybe Byron are checking if you make a comment. But let's keep it to what we're talking about here, not. Anyway, let's just start here. So I explained how great a watt meter is, and let's just point this out and maybe switch to that little camera, which is this new model that we have is cool because it's backlit, but I think the backlit will go off. And what is interesting is I have it set to the volts right here, and it's giving me 118.7. And actually our wall voltage here at this time of day at Sweet Maria's is like 124. So what's going on is that this workbench table that we use has dropped the voltage 118, and that's really important to know because your watts that you're going to be operating your machine off of are going to be less. And in a lot of cases that's going to be good. Like with the incredibly hot, fast roaster, the Popo, that's actually kind of what you want, generally. But knowing what you're starting with is so important. So if you have old construction, if you have knob and tube wiring, like cloth wires and ceramic tubes, if you're roasting in a garage and your supply panel to your house, your fuse panel is like a mile away, all those things are going to be dropping your voltage and your wattage at that particular outlet. So knowing that's really important. And so what I'm going to do here, and I just also want to demystify, these devices are so simple and easy. And if oh, there we go. That's not much better. So, here you're going to go through the functions. So I'm going to go from watts to amps. That is low, see low watts. That's going to record what the lowest watts have been. That's high watts. You don't want any of those. What you want is just watts. So that's like literally all you need to do to start measuring. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking the popo straight out. Let's just do a quick test and see what our wattage is. So I'm going to try to use this little pill mic. And maybe someone can tell me if it's working okay. Because we know we can't do this. So it's 1088. Now, this is a 1400 watt model here. This is 1400 watts. So we're getting quite a reduced wattage because of the combination of the fact that, well, mainly because we're using this sort of appliance that we're plugging into. And probably there's a little bit of loss from the watt meter itself. It's probably really not much. So the cool thing about using a watt meter with this is like the two things that are affecting your roast with a popcorn popper are your line voltage, your voltage drop once there's a load on the line, meaning you turn on the heat and it drops down, that how many watts you lose or volts you lose is really significant to what your result is and how quickly your roast is going to go, whether it's going to stall, whether it's going to go too fast. The other thing is that all these, the popper and the popo, are sucking in the ambient air through the bottom. And if it's really cold, this thing is really having trouble heating. And that matters a lot. So a lot of people roast, they're banished to roasting on like the back porch in the winter in Chicago and stuff. And your roasting is totally going to be different than the summer. Even here in lovely California, I go from about 70, 72 in a day to like 50 at night, and it's a totally different result if I'm in 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So I just want to mention that because we don't want to get sidetracked, but there are the two things really affecting it. Now, so we wanted to discuss using these two in combination, and that this is really going to make any observer in your household think you're just lost your mind, because what you have to do, because it's just so kooky, is you have to basically put this upside down on this. You're plugging your voltage controller in the wall. Let's turn on the power there. That's telling me I have 127, so we're not calibrated there, and that happens. These things kind of range. These are not, Granger. These are not, sophisticated electronics here. These are basic things. So what is interesting now with a popcorn popper, which has, I can play around with volts much more, is now I've got 109, that's my voltage drop. I'm sorry, I should move it, right? We're at 1038, and now I can be sitting here and manipulating my volts down to 102. Now we're upside down, we're at 908 watts, which means I've effectively lowered my temperature, and so on, 791 watts. We talk about using extension cords to drop the wattage to something you're roasting with, like a popcorn popper. It's not totally advised, but I do it. But this is like a more sophisticated way to do that with control. Now the big drawback is as you're dropping the voltage and therefore the wattage consumed by your appliance, it's not just your heat you're controlling. Your fan speed is going down. So with an air popper where you're trying to like rotate the coffee with the fan and heat it with the heater at the same time, the agitation is going down. So the technique basically I'm using is starting out with full voltage, where I'm going to use this setup and manipulate it. And then slowly, after the coffee loses weight, after like 2 minutes, I'm going to start manipulating it. So on this table, I weighed out 100 grams of, this is our new 10-speed blend, which is plug the 10-speed blend. And normally in the Papo, I can do 110, 115, even 120 on the direct line voltage upstairs. So I've got to drop this in order, just because of the table knocking down my voltage quite a bit. So that's always something you should always, I mean, these scales are like so cheap. They're not, super sophisticated quality, but these really do the job for roasting. And maybe, Julie, you can just show the agitation in there and what we consider appropriate and agitation. Is the mic working? Can you hear me while I'm talking? Oh, that's incredible. Things are working. So this is fantastic. What you're seeing right here is totally what we want to see as you're starting out a roast. We're getting rotation from the top to the bottom. And now, if I was sitting here initially in a foolhardy way manipulating this, now I'm not getting proper agitation, and this will be burning. So let us not do that. So that's why I recommend you're always starting out with full voltage, getting the coffee to lose weight for the first couple minutes, and then starting to manipulate. And the fact that you have this upside down watt meter here and the voltage controller is giving you numbers that you can, of course this is an ad hoc way of adjusting your roast.
Good for repeatability if you did want to.
Yeah, absolutely. You have some sense of what you're doing and how to do it again, if you care to. So I'm not going to do the full roast here. I just wanted to kind of display, because I think this sort of this is really ad hoc, but it's a great simple, easy way, and I haven't had to take anything apart. I haven't had to get out my screwdrivers. I haven't had to do anything. I just, yes. Good point. Okay. So we were going to actually do a full roast on a popper. And what we're going to do is the same thing. This is interesting because it's recording a crazy voltage drop. I don't quite trust that this is 129 volts. Like I said, these are,
Primitive.
a true variac, I think it's a thyristor. This is a fan controller, a motor controller. It's 4,000 watts, so it's rated for these kinds of appliances, which is a new thing. These used to be many hundreds of dollars. And, these are obviously very low-end types. So
this is an interesting question. I don't know if you would like to address
So
this.
there's a question. Is trying to hit first crack as fast as possible a good rule of thumb? No.
I would say no.
Yeah. But generally, well, let's put it this way. I can't quite, right off the top of my head, I can't think of a home roaster where you are having issues where you just need to get as much heat and push it as much as possible. Now, poppers, people used to roast outside, and a secret thing they would do to try, because they're sucking in incredibly cold air, maybe under suboptimal voltage conditions, what they would do is they put it in a box. They put the machine in a box, so it was recirculating, not closed, but like three-sided, and it would kind of be sucking in the air from around it, so it was preheating, preheated air that was taking in. And so there's cases where people really, they stall the roast, they're struggling to get it hot enough, and then you're trying to do everything you can to get it to roast. It's really not, the Papo is absolutely not the case. We wanted this thing to be a bit overpowered. Even though that creates the problem of needing to slow it down, it's actually a better problem than having a popcorn popper that just doesn't get to first crack and you've basically ruined your coffee because of it. So slowing down to me is a good problem to have. And Julia, you roasted like in all kinds of roasters. So like,
Well, there's a lot of chemical reactions that are happening in the yellowing phase, so there's a lot of important flavors that are being developed during those phases. So you don't necessarily just want to jam through them. So you do kind of want to acknowledge those changes.
Right. Yeah, it's so interesting because coffee's it was traditionally like interpreted like it's brown. How brown do you want it, or do you want it black? Oh, I like my beans oily. This is like coffee in the 80s, maybe the 90s and stuff. And we just looked at it as the final product and said, oh, this is good coffee. Look, it's roasted evenly. We would see even brown color. And, I think the awareness of the development phases of coffee roasting has really come into being in the discussions around how important those warm-up phases are. Yeah. So...
but then also talking about the repeatability, if you find that a shorter yellowing phase gets results, the results that you like, using these very simple little accessories can help you repeat that.
Yeah, and Papo is a super fast roaster, and it kind of breaks some of the rules of like, the yield timey, develop slowly, develop flavors, kind of is like, wow, I can hit first crack in 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. I've really enjoyed the roast from it because they have a good tangy roast taste, like developed roast taste, but still have a lot of acidity. And that may be from the characteristic of pushing a roast fast and the heating dynamic from the interior to exterior of a bean, because if you are really slow roasting, you may produce something that works great for espresso or something, but as a brewed coffee, it's really flat tasting. So it's really just kind of not like one is good or bad. It's knowing what you want and what gets you to where you want to be, just like cooking anything, you know, you can cook it in different ways and have different results.
Yeah, there's a balance between stalling out, rushing it, and stalling out, I think, which is what this will help aid with that.
Yeah. So let's show my infographic. Where is that?
Can I do it like
we could do it there. So, yeah. So this is the popper heat stages. And maybe we'll put it on this camera so we can show it really. Hold on a second. Here, I'll put it down here. Now, I made this because I had a chart that is on the web page that we use. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Jared. And it was like, you just couldn't see it and absorb it. So what I wanted to point out, and this is a weakness of popper, is that it has stepped heating stages. So as you roast, and you adjust the 10 o'clock position on the knob, and we'll show you what that means. We talk about that being an analog clock face, like a clock face. At 10 o'clock, you have 120 watts, totally useless for roasting coffee. And this is on the high heat setting, which it's about 50 watts consumption in itself. And these are averages because each popper it's not a highly tuned device, and you'll find 11 o'clock on one will be 11:30 on another. It's just part of a low-cost appliance. 403 watts at 11. 672 watts at 12 is what I measured on this particular machine. And you're getting into coffee roasting range there. That could actually be useful. 1 o'clock, 980 watts, extremely useful. 2 o'clock, 1,110 watts is a range that's going to be pretty fast, but you may need that to push things. And then 3 o'clock at 1170 watts tends to be overpowering the machine and something I actually never use. So I wanted to show that because this limitation with the machine, and the thing is you'll go up to 12 o'clock and you'll tune it back down to 12 o'clock and you'll hit a slightly different wattage. So these are just approximate. There's ranges that you'll get around that number, but that describes that particular step. We've been working on getting that to a more refined so that the total knob adjustment range is useful. And that's in the plans, that's in the works. However, I find I'm able to profile my roast very well, especially using the limited settings. And then I started to play around with what I could do with this, setup with my watt meter and voltage controller. Now the thing to keep in mind is I could sit there with the popper, because it's so simple. It's like controlling a fan, and I could starve it of voltage and go way down in the watts and way up. Now anything with a chip, anything like here, which actually, believe it or not, has some electronics in it. It has 2 control boards. You can't do that, but you can do things within it, like a range of, let's say, 105 volts to 115, 120 volts. That's pretty useful. And it turns these steps into kind of a little bit more of a slope. Not perfect, but a little bit more. So I wanted to actually do a roast. I'm thinking that I'm not actually going to complete a whole roast here. I'm just going to sort of show what we're talking about. So this is a well-used popper. Yeah, we can switch. And I've had to, of course, use my scale, and I go down to 80 grams only. I would normally be using 90 to 95. But because our line voltage here is a little low, and let's just check that out. I'm going to put it on high and just start the roast. And so that is the agitation you want to see. And it could even be, I could have even probably added a few more. And that's fantastic. Yeah, I definitely could have added 5 to 10 more grams. So right now we're cooling, and what I'm seeing is almost no voltage drop and only using 40 watts. So let's start playing with it. Let's find the range that I talked about, which is about 1 o'clock, 980. And you can hear how that impacted it. And so I'm looking for that. Oh, cool. Are you trying to find? So I'm going a little. Okay, let's. Okay, so we're definitely seeing some different numbers here than my chart. And the reason is because we're dealing with lower input voltage. Like we only have 111 volts, where I normally have 120. So we're at 825, but that is correspond to the 980 watt. I'm guarantee you. And that's a good level to be warming up at. We're seeing really good agitation. In fact, let me see if I can get away with, no, that's low setting, and that's not good enough. So we want it high. And what I would do here, okay, well, we're just going to demo this. So let's just say our baseline for this step, which should be about 980, 970 watts, is 825. So we have to just accept that. Okay. Now let's sit and just play with how much we can manipulate it. So now I'm at 103 volts, and we've gone to 772, 770. So that has proved to me to be very useful in controlling temperature and sort of softening up these steps, and getting some more adjustability within the limitations of these heat levels that Popper kind of hands you. And you know, this is $30 worth of add-on stuff, which you could use for other types of roasting, or even with the watt meter around the house and stuff. So I'm wondering if there's any. The idea was to do a full roast here, but I'm feeling like we might want to just abandon that so we can get to the rest of what we want to show. But I think that just shows the concept, and you know, we were able to drop 50 watts, if I'm correct there. I'm trying to do too many things at once. And that 50 watt range, I don't have a thermometer. Oh, I actually have this drilled for a thermometer in the back. I should have put one in. But I could have actually showed the corresponding heat adjustment that we were able to do there. It's kind of just a proof of concept, but I've been doing this and enjoying it and finding it like it's pretty cool. But we're going to kind of leave it at that. I'm going to kind of shortchange that part of the venue here, so that we can get to part 2. But if you want me to go over something with that, to talk about it at all, let's just send in a question and we'll loop back to it. Okay. Yeah. Should I switch on? Are we using this mic? Or is...
No.
Okay, I think we're good now. But hopefully, tell me if you guys could hear all of that. Hopefully, I think it actually worked. So far.
Yeah, Byron and Dad were saying it sounded okay, except for the 2 seconds when I turned all the mics off.
Oh, that's okay.
That's what we said.
That's
on
like
the swears.
every Skype call I'm on. I'm just talking. Yeah. So let me put this aside, and we're going to talk about the motor replacement kit and adjusting the position of the thermal sensor. And this is a brand new popper. We thought we'd just do it on something brand new so that you see it as it comes in the box. I did want to make a little point. People, if you take care of these tops, I just wanted to show, I've never get to see this. So these tops are the bane of my existence. This added an incredible amount of cost, unfortunately, to this popper that I was hoping would come in for less than it did. And the reason is it's a really special high density thermoplastic, and it's a little bit yellow because of that. And you can see new and used, brand new, never used, and used. And this is relatively clean. If you keep this clean by just hot water in the sink every few times with your hand and a little soap, it's so much easier to see what's going on in the machine. So since I rarely get to see them side by side, this one is relatively clean and you can see it's good. And we get these sent in to us to look at, and they're just trashed. The other thing I just wanted to mention quickly is when you're, here I come. Oh wait, there's coffee in there. When your roast chamber discolors, that is not a bad thing, and that's going to happen to every roast chamber. The danger, and this is like, I'm pretty much talking about every appliance except like fresh roast, you can take it off, you can detach it and get it, the electronics and the roasting part are totally separated. But discoloration in the roast chamber is totally normal.
Was that like 30 roast, 25, 30?
Yeah, you can kind of gauge it. This is probably 50. I had it at 40, but I've been using it quite a lot. And this was a return the person said didn't work, and it worked. But the don't clean it. Pretty much is my recommendation.
Or treat it like cast iron, I guess. Just don't use soap. Don't spray it.
Well, yeah, I don't even know what you should do, because you shouldn't use any cleaner. You shouldn't go in there. Anything that goes in there is likely to go through the vents in the bottom directly down into the heating element, and it's going to fry the next time you turn it on. So the best advice is just don't do it, and it doesn't matter. So it's not dirty. Okay. So we're going to look at how we do this, and then I may show you the Frankenstein, the exploded model, to show the parts while Julia's doing it. But we wanted to kind of do it from scratch, just as if the same as if you had received it. So we didn't want to set it up and do it halfway. So let's just remove this.
Well, will you explain what this is and why we would do it?
Oh, yeah. So you've used your popper for 6, 8, 12 months. You've done a bunch of roasts, and you start hearing the motor kind of struggling. You start hearing going, anything that makes you think, then you may have, it may be getting to the point where there's a motor failure. It could have been because hopefully you didn't add too much coffee. Hopefully you're weighing your coffee. You're taking the advice with stirring it, because if you overload it with coffee, it's directing the heat back down into the machine. And the machine is made, any popper is made to suck the cold air from the bottom and push it out the top. And if you back up more heat into it, it's going to start damaging things. So that's one of the big reasons with motor failure is overloading. But we also found that when we went back to a different supplier and we talked to them about, we sent them motors and we talked to them about what was going on, and they said that the carbons in the motor, which are the brushes, could have been better. They used, what we did is we changed it for imported carbons and a slightly better build, basically. And you know, you can get motors that are like bearingless, sealed bearing motors and stuff, and then this whole thing would cost like $200, $300. So the point of popper is to get a really, you know, a decent roaster that's going to last a decent amount of time at a decent price. So, you know, you can get the Ikawa or something if you want to spend a couple grand. And, you know, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not being glib. I think there's real reasons to go for durability and stuff, and I don't like using something that doesn't last forever, but that's the kind of the reality of machines. So the new motors we have for replacement, and the next time we order are the improved motor with hard carbons and an improved build, and it still fits in the same space. So the reason we're doing this one is kind of, the motor in here is perfectly good and you should use it for 200 roasts, and then you can basically double the life of your appliance by doing the motor switch. So you get, it's like pretty much renewed. That is the main limiting factor. It has turned out to be the motor, not the heating element itself. So, but you can, you know, there is a risk that you'll get something wrong with doing this rebuild. So that's why it's good for us to go through it. So, where do you want to start?
We're gonna take the.
Yeah, so let's
wanna
just
show
start
what
with disassembly.
Sure.
And you just going to talk through it?
Sure. We have these 4 little rubber little banks here, our little feet that we're gonna take off first. Right?
Yeah, let me grab this. Oh my God, excuse me.
There's screws under here.
Sorry, hold on a second.
Have them on the show. All right. Took off the feet, and as well as the screws under here, you can see them under where I took off the feet. The screws hiding in there. So I'm trying to find what diameter this is to have everything on hand to try and advise what to get. Looks like a number 1, if that is a unit of measure for a screwdriver. There's 4 little screws down there, and there are also 2 here that will help take the enclosure off. These are a little tough, but we got take them off easily, pretty much. They're kind of set in there, so you just need to get the proper tool. Good to have around for this. We have a little toolkit kind of set up for this upstairs, which is nice.
Yeah, so we actually found a particular drill driver with this narrow bit that we could get in there. But these 4 feet she's taking off are these 4 screws are some of the more difficult because you can't really feel. Oh yeah, do I have it set right? Yeah, you can't really feel them. So.
You know exactly what bit number this is? Good for
Oh, maybe we'll get the 2. So then you've got 4 screws under the feet, and then you have the 2 in the front, and that's what needs to come off right at this point. Let's see if we got it. Nope, something's still. Oh no, you got it. So, yeah, I'm gonna hand it back.
Okay.
Okay. So at this stage you can come apart, except there's a wire, so gently lift it, and then, there you go. Let me get in a little closer. So the wire is here, it's a ribbon cable, so don't pull anymore, don't pull up. So you can, what you can do is you can basically tilt it this way with the ribbon cable. There you go. And that's off, okay? And then your ribbon cable is here, so you can pinch that and pull it off to separate the top and the bottom. And this is all in our video online. It's a little bit tricky, but you don't want to yank on this. And you know, I'm the guy who's basically done everything wrong here. So this, as you can see, that there pinches, you push down, and as you push down, it opens up. So that's the only thing you've got to do, and then you can take this entire part and put it aside for now. Okay.
Here's the new motor that we sell.
Yeah, and we wanted to do this like as you would receive it, so we did not prepare it with the strips that you need to
Definitely
attach.
not because we didn't have time. At all. It was a choice, a choice.
And here is an old motor, okay? So this is what Julia's going to need to do right now with this 2 strips. She's going to need to put on.
This comes with little tabs at the. They 2 come together, just kind of slightly scored, and then the ends are useless. You just need the 2 strips.
Right. And what you're going to want to do, the motors are slightly different, but they do fit. You can see the length is different. And what you're going to want to do is not cover over, for example, this this hole right here, which is needed for.
So the placement of the seam doesn't matter, but you just don't want to.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. So like this doesn't matter where you put that, just as long as it's meeting. And yeah, these are pretty important because the vibration of the motor needs to not vibrate. And if it crosses over a little like this, then you want to trim off this little tiny extra so that it's flush. And you could be a little shorter, that's fine. I'm going to put this over here too.
How's that?
Looks good.
Okay. So I can obstruct this? That doesn't matter?
You can, but I tend to go above it.
Above?
Just above it, yeah. So we'll show that just a second. She's doing it a little bit higher than the original, but that's actually good. So all the vents are not the original. Okay, great. And that is your motor kit. I mean, that's the kit aspect.
Okay.
Okay. So now you. Huh?
This is the part I don't know how to do.
Oh,
so
well,
this is
yeah,
the training.
let me just, yeah, you know, we were
Live
just talking
training.
because Julia has done some of these things and not all of them. So the thing I struggle with is the different feet here that need to be released.
Yes,
this
is
is
where I'm
like
good
my,
This is where I thrive.
yeah, this is your power.
Yes.
So I didn't realize that when you assemble spade connectors nowadays, they have
You
release
want to see
clips.
the little clippies? They're tiny.
They're so hard to
right-
see, but
yeah.
this little, if
Oh, yeah, it's
now
gonna
some
be
of these,
impossible.
I have had
Okay.
no trouble releasing these just by grabbing them and with my fingers. But we're going to show you that a couple others I find pretty hard, and actually I've sort of like just trying to yank, like as I'm prone to do, I've damaged them. So here's your jacket, and we're actually going to need to make a little modification of that when we adjust the thermal sensor. So let's actually talk about the thermal sensor a second. So this is a thermal sensor, and actually even the popcorn popper, every popcorn popper has something like this mounted on the popping chamber, roasting chamber, as a safety in order to cut off the power to the heating coil when it gets too hot. And it's mounted at a certain height because as the coffee goes up and higher, then when it hits this level, it will trigger that, you know, more likely. So what we found is by just simply adjusting it slightly higher, you're able to roast a little darker. It gives you a little bit more headroom without, while keeping the safety feature intact. Because you could bypass it, and I just really don't recommend it. So all the power to the heat coil goes through these wires here. and through here. And that's another aspect of making any shift or change here, taking these off, is you need to make sure this connection is really good, or else you'll put it back together and find that your roaster is lacking power if this is sort of loose or not connected.
Or it won't heat up, right?
But as I said, I mean, you could connect these two together and bypass it, and I just do not recommend it. The adjustment for that is simply this. In fact, let's do that aspect right now. So there's a band with just a single screw, as you can see. And you need to loosen it a lot, actually. Okay. It's got a little nut, so loosen it almost to the end. I'll show you why. Yeah, that gives us some leeway. Okay, and the thing here is, as you can see, there's a. Oh, let me grab this one. This one? Okay, well here's this, and there's a flat portion of the roast chamber, which you can actually see. No, you can't. Inside, and that's to create a good contact between this. Well, a way you can kind of get some more leeway is by creating a bad contact between this, by shifting the thermal sensor above to the rounded part above this flat area where it's supposed to make contact.
I see.
Yeah, and so.
I see, there's a little knob actually.
Yeah, so by loosening it a lot, we shift it up, and now it's actually kind of like, I can see, and it's gonna be hard to see, but it's kind of on the rounded part.
Mm-hmm.
It's just making actually just not good contact, and that's good for us.
I
The
see.
one thing is that as you go higher, these are straining to make the connection. So that's about it right there. So let's, yeah, if you can,
Right back there.
and what you could also do is before you adjust it, just make a Sharpie mark on there, you know, on the band, and it shows you how much you adjusted it. But this popper will now be less inhibited in terms of the high temp range where it starts to cut out the heater. And what it does is it's got two coils. It cuts out the main coil, so you don't lose heat. But what you would see when the thermal sensor starts kicking in, is your popper wattage, because you're using a watt meter, dips way down because it's running on a lower wattage, that heating coil, and then about 20 seconds later, kicks back in, and your roast sort of progresses again.
Can I engage this?
Yeah, and that's about right. But we'll actually have those off because we're going to be taking that apart for the.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought
Wanna
we'd
make
just
sure
get
we
this
were
out of the
close
way.
enough. Make sure.
Yeah. Now I'm going to show you actually to just complete this. The other thing you need to do is to raise the level, the opening here just a little bit. And I actually found the easiest way to do it was with my fingers, which is you just grab it. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm just not strong today. Let's just use this. I'd used a little utility knife or whatever. Oh, there's a, okay, I think I got it. Thank you. And, gosh, maybe I don't. Maybe they changed something. This one's strong. I think I need that, Jarrett. Thank you. Yeah, so anyway, this is made from a thermal foam. It's, innocuous. And,
Is it?
gosh. I'm not a rock climber, so I have no finger strength. I'm a guitarist. Here, maybe you can do it.
It's like opening the mayo jar.
Yeah,
got
it's
you
like
got
if
it
you're
there
licked,
for me.
just hand it to somebody else, you know. That's the smart thing to do. Okay, anyway, you're just going to cut a little notch out. It just makes it easier putting it back together. So I'll continue here with what we need to do. So unfortunately, to get to the fan, we actually have to take apart the roast chamber, and underneath that is this thermoplastic housing, and the motor is right in here, and the heating coil is right in the bottom here. So we actually have to get into all of that. And what we have to do is take off the 3 screws here. But I wanted to just, not do that initially so the whole thing doesn't fall apart. And so Julie, if you can do that, I think you can use the drill driver. And I'll just kind of show what we're going to be looking at in there, in this old one, is is your heating coil sits here, and it's really important to know there's 3 ceramic feet here. And this is your fan, circular fan, and your motor is right here. This one's obviously was impatient and cut off the things. So it's pretty important, and it's good if you can kind of keep these things together. The fan, the heating coil goes in this area, and it goes through here, and it needs to line up, and then, and we'll show you how to do this effectively. And then there's a notch here that you're going to want to line up, and you're going to want to make sure these 3 ceramic feet are in place. And sometimes it's better just to take these off so you don't break them. I have a 20-minute video walkthrough on this. It was kind of real ad lib, but everybody who's watched it has told me that it works, that they've had success, that it was clear. There's been very few questions with it. So this isn't, maybe because we're struggling with this, it looks harder than it is. I just want to say people have had a lot of success with it, even people that just have, 1 screwdriver and have done it. Okay, so we got it apart, and then we're going to have 3 screws here that are threaded. There's no nut on them. So, yeah, you can do the drill driver or and that's going to, I could have put the number 0, wait, I think number 2 is the standard driver, and I think that's what I have on there. But it actually works because it's fresh. These are I think this is a 0 and a 1. Great.
Be aware that one's
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah. So there we are. That's the whole deal right there. And now what we're going to need to do, we're going to have to take this off. So usually whenever I take anything apart, I take a photo to remember what it is. And these have proved hard for me, but you just have these 2 motor wires, are obviously going straight to the motor. You're red and black. Red is on top. This is in my video thing. But it's got a shrink wrap boot on it, and the trick that Julia's going to do is you have to find that little release point so it slides off easily. And
You can see it. It's a little dimple.
oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But you have to kind of do you have 1 chance,
yeah.
or else you bend it kind of funny. So.
Yeah. There you go. That was good.
And you want these 2?
Yeah, going to the motor. So the black one is underneath. Excellent.
Right.
That was very smooth. Can't believe that. The main thing I've struggled with is that. So we're ready to go here. Now to take the motor out, this is something somebody has told me they struggled with, is removing the fan. Because the fan is, do you see the spleens on here, or splines? It's got,
Oh yeah.
splines around, and they tend to just grab a lot. And
see.
so I found out, the first time I did this, I really had trouble. But I found that you can just, if you're holding it firm, you can just manhandle it, or
Person handler.
person handle it. Yeah, I know. I heard that. And the other thing I do is put a screwdriver under one side and a finger under the other. And sometimes this feels a little brutal, but I can feel it's coming, and there it is. Okay. But this is flexible, and I think the flexibility in it kind of makes it actually hard. And then I have 2 screws to remove right here, and that's holding my motor in. And they're little tiny babies. And Julia, I can tell she's got a tray over there that she's putting all the screws in, which is very intelligent. Okay, those are little 2 machine screws. And there it goes. Voila. So, original motor, unused, totally fine. And we're going to put this one in. And one thing you'll notice is there are 4 screws on this and 2 on this. It doesn't matter the orientation,
Okay.
as far as I know. So should I continue, or you want to
Sure.
jump in? So as you can see, do you see here these little ridges? That is important for the foam to, the foam to seat, and yeah. And what we need to do is just look through here and line these up with the holes. So
The screw holes? I see.
yeah, did I
Okay.
get that? Yeah, got that.
I think it was these teeny tiny.
Yeah. Yeah, somehow, I feel like somehow this demo makes it look a lot harder than it is.
It's real.
Yeah, and give it, nice and firm. Yeah, let me see if I can get it with this one too. Nice and firm without going overboard. Now this isn't, that hasn't, this one actually, when you tighten that one, this one, yep, nice and firm. The other thing is this, is some people have not put the fan in hard enough. So get right in the center, it'll find its way and push it down, and then just make sure it's moving and not binding. That's it. Next thing, we're reversing. Black on the bottom, red on the top. Let's actually make sure we're not, like, try to make sure things aren't crossed over and stuff.
Black on the bottom.
Yep. I wonder if it matters which way those go. When you put them back.
Well, I put them back the way I took them off.
Yeah, I swear, just, from working on my JDM cars, you just have to take a photo. So, now this is kind of important for us. We're basically, you can actually cut this one tie off if you need to. It makes it a lot easier. But if you can leave it, and we didn't take these off, which might have been smart. They might fall off or they might break. So they're really important because they're spacing the motor from the fan. So I think one way to do this is, and you see these feet, these are important, so they go up in the roast chamber. So here we go. And as you can see, I've lined up these here. This is what it should look like in the bottom. There we go. Okay, so that's what you're seeing. And then, as you can see, these are going to line up. Okay? Yeah. Hey, Jared, can you switch to the other camera?
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
You want to do that? Yeah. There we go. Okay, I just want to make sure. So this is what you should be seeing, and this needs to line up with this. Your feet are in the right place, and then you kind of just gotta push it into position. Okay, and then if you've gotten that, your holes should line up, and these are threaded. So, yeah. I can't really see, but I think that's right. Just put it a little in and get the other two. Yeah. And then I'm going to tighten them down. Okay. I might, we can show, and this one feels a little bit off. No, it's good. Okay.
You want to tighten them?
Yeah, go ahead and tighten that down. I wanted to actually bring up something else. So, one other repair that people find that they need to do, and it's actually can be very confusing. We've had people just like, my popper won't turn on. It has different symptoms, but it's actually that the knob that's for fan control, high, low, and off, can break when people twist it too much. It's got 3 click stops. It's not, and if you tend to person handle the knobs, it will actually go too far and break. So if we can, I don't know if we can see this, but if you can see in here,
That one doesn't look cracked. Oh,
that is
one's
cracked.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
What?
good. See, this is cracked.
On the brand
so
new one?
this is an old one.
Okay.
So it's going to spin on the shaft, and it causes a lot of trouble. And it would seem like you could just pull this off the front of the popper and replace it. And we actually have replacement knobs in case you need one. But
like and subscribe if you need a new knob.
like and subscribe. But the actual problem is on the popper is the knob is trapped behind the faceplate. So if you have this situation, I've gotten really good at this, and I can replace this in a matter of 5 minutes, let's say. But what you have to do is actually get behind the faceplate and replace the knob. And to do that, where's the one we just took off the shelf? Oh, it's right there. Okay, to do that, you just need to do one more thing. You actually wouldn't have to take apart any of this stuff, but what you do need to do is take off 4 screws on here, the one with the ribbon cable. So the PCB that's attached to the case, this just comes right out. You can replace the knob, and those go back in. And so it's actually not that complicated because you don't have to get into any of this stuff that we did. So it's good to be aware of, and we've actually had them redo the knob,
Strengthen the
it's
connection.
strengthen the shaft, so it should be better. Okay, so we're just reassembly over here.
Yeah, we can. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you want to show the whole
So-
reassembly?
Yeah, the main thing you're gonna do is you're gonna put on your jacket. Sometimes I forget to do this and then I have to do it. And you'll notice that the jacket also has the notch here, okay? And as you know, we made some more room. Oh, we might have shifted this over a little, but that's fine. We can make that connection. Okay. And then you're going to be reattaching it here. And I want to point out something. I struggled with this. One of these 3 feet has a little ridge right here. I may not actually have not said this in the video where I go through all this stuff where everyone says, and one of the feet does right here. So what you do is make sure it goes that way.
Mm-hmm.
The one with the ridge goes into the feet, okay? And then we want to make sure, just before we put that together, that there's 2 things. That's a good point, Jared. That these are,
Longer.
yeah. And I'll show you what to do in case you have any issue with I'm talking about the thermal wires here. And the other thing that's really important is that your power cord has this that goes through the casing right here. And you need to make sure that's in the right place. Okay, is there anything to add to that? Okay, we have the Vanna White. Yeah, okay. So we're ready to go, and let's start with I'm going to just hold all this and flip it over and put in my little feet. And so, and this can be, a little hard to drop these in, but I kind of always, are these magnetic? No. Is this magnetic? It is?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Because this actually works. So, and with these screws going into plastic, I never over torque them. They're fine. So I want to know if there's any. We're wrapping up and we're getting to the end, and then we'll make sure this thing works. But if there's any popper questions or other things related, or anything about what we've done here, it'd be great to know now.
Uh-oh. Who's that?
Oh, it's probably one of the feet in the bottom. They tend to stay in the bottom and then fall out, and you're like, what is it? Now, actually, these 2 wires aren't important which direction they go. It just has to go through the thermal sensor, and I heard that one click.
Mm-hmm.
But if this gave me any concern about being loose, I would crimp it on, okay? Because if you don't, you're losing power and the popper's gonna be weak. These silicone boots don't really matter. They tend to get kind of like dried out, crusty. So when you take yours apart and you see that these are discolored and crusty, it probably means a little heat has escaped in there, but it doesn't really mean much. So Now, we're ready for the top, and what we're going to do is attach the ribbon cable, which, as you know, you unclipped from the bottom. So, yeah. You know what's funny about like mechanic videos is when you see people struggle with something, it's very like, everyone edits them, so it's like, you know, then it's like, hey, I replaced the engine in this car and it took 3 hours, and it's like, yeah, right. It's like frustrating though to watch people struggle with stuff. So anyway, I didn't hear that click like I like to, but so now that I've got that in there, I can carefully angle this over. And this is a thing that may frustrate some people, so I really want to show this part.
Oh, yeah.
Is when you put it back together, first of all, hopefully you didn't pinch any wires anywhere in there or anything. And it shouldn't be a huge struggle. Occasionally I've had one that is just really frustrating for some reason. I don't know. But the main thing is that you have to work this from the bottom and the top, because this top, do you see, it's out of place right now. This has to seat here while it seats on the bottom. So it tends to go really well when I just keep one hand up here and one hand down here. I'm not going to say this is the easiest one, but I know I can get it. Remember I was talking about how-to videos where people struggle? There you go. That sounded good. And I can feel at the top, it's in place. It's locked in there, and you can see the seams are there, and that's just a lot nicer. So I think we still retain some screws in the bottom, but it's really hard to see in there. Yeah, so what I usually do is I start with the two in the front. I'll just use this if it's okay. And that locks in the face, and then every so often I've lost one of the 4 feet screws. It doesn't really matter that much, honestly. The problem is I can't see, oh, this one doesn't have one. So I tend to just drop it in and then kind of feel it around, and you can feel when you get it. But if these are a little bit of a pain, I feel your struggle. Okay, and we're ready for the feet. The feet are super important, or else this thing will be dancing all over your countertop. Yeah. So now is the moment of truth. Do we have a working popper? Oh, okay. Thanks, Jared. And we didn't like kind of benchmark or test this. It would have been interesting to see what we get, like the wattage consumption, but you know, some other day. Yeah, so let's just put it on high and start it out. Wow. So what's interesting here is this motor tends to be more powerful, and you may need to add 5, 10, even 15 grams of coffee to what you're roasting before. That was our experience. You got to test it out and do the spin test and see if it works. But the motor does have, it shouldn't have a slightly higher RPM, but it seems to have more oomph. So we've got it working. I was feeling, we were feeling the heat there. Heat is on. Turns off. Sounds great. We've got the thermal sensor adjusted, so this is kind of the super popper, I guess. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we wanted to go over. We kind of cut the roasting part short, but I think I just want to make the point. And was there anything to talk? I mean, we know the main viewing for this is going to be later on, so we'll look at YouTube comments that come in later and try to answer them about anything that was unclear. But for us,
We went
that's
over a lot.
like it. Yeah. And it all worked. So thanks to Jared and our consultant Alex, and thank you, Julia.
Yes, thank you,
Thank you,
Tom.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Oh, I can't wait.